Greetings, everybody. This is Wes. I'm back, and I'm going to be reading from the much awaited sequel, even though these books have been out for many, many decades at this point. Kenneth Anger's Hollywood Babylon 2, which was released about 10 years after the first. Just to get some of the basic stuff out of the way, the edition that I'm reading from is a hardcover first edition that was copyrighted in 1984, and it was published and distributed by E.P. Dutton Incorporated out of New York, also known as Dutton Adult. This reading is purely for entertainment purposes only and intended for a mature audience, so please be advised that the following nonfiction accounts are going to contain images of violence or depictions. Sorry, it's going to contain depictions of violence, murder, theft, sexual assault, and a variety of other darker themes such as suicide and torture, abduction, and a variety of basically incredibly difficult things to read through. So if at any point in time you're not into any of the stories that I'm reading, please pause and come back on a different day. I would rather you have these stories be taken for the entertainment that they are intended to be, as opposed to taking them so seriously that it might actually start to harm your mental health. With that said, I'm really excited to sit down and read through this novel. It actually has a little bit more info on it than the first. However, to be clear, a lot of these depictions and a lot of these non-fictional accounts have proven to be, in some cases, exaggerated and in other cases, outright falsified for entertainment purposes. So with that said, let's go ahead and begin. And I'd like to read a couple of quotes that the particular book has at the beginning here. It's no secret to anybody that knows anything about Kenneth Anger that he was a magical practitioner. Whether he was a completely pure Thelemite or somebody that practiced Aleister Crowleyan magic, or somebody that mostly just took it and did their own research with it anyway, I have no doubt. But here's a quote from Aleister Crowley that he has at the beginning of this book. "Every man and every woman is a star," which I do think is a little on the profound side. And there's a few other things along the way, but I would also like to say this book also says for John Paul Getty Jr., and I'd like to read a poem that was written by Don Marquis, or Don Marquis, however you pronounce it, that is also in the introduction as well. An Ode to Hollywood. City of sterile striving, where brains have not begun, I sing thy idiot faces, thy leagued commonplaces, bright in thy silly sun. Thy ballocks have no semen, thine udders have no milk. Ever thou seekest bliss with hard-ons swollen with piss, thy gods are bunk and bilk. Fertile in naught but faking, futile each season passes, and scrutiny discloses thy most prodigious roses are really horses' asses. Strange cults are thine, strange cunts, dry nymph and arid Venus, or should a condom bust, 'tis but a puff of dust, powders the satyr's penis. Diffuse, wide desert reaches, where no mind ever wrought. Peer from thy cloudless skies, demons with lidless eyes, scorching the buds of thought. Thy passions all pretended, thy pulses beat for pelf. But should more irrigation bring dustless fornication, go fuck thy suffering self. Very dirty-minded. All right, here we go. Now that we're past the introduction, we go ahead and begin. Chapter 1. A Walk on the Dead Side. I confess, growing up in Tinseltown, my childhood hobby was visiting cemeteries, seeking the resting places of my heroes, those with the fabulous faces of Hollywood in the 20s who had passed on. My grandmother had given me her habit of using that genteel euphemism, and I didn't know any better. For a long time, like grandmother, I didn't believe in death. It was just a transition, a special effect, lap, dissolve, and I really believed that when it would be my turn later on, I'd finally get to meet Mabel Normand, Barbara Lamar, and Rodolfo Valentino. Me, I wouldn't approach them with autograph books in hand. Oh no, that was for the Poles from Venice and Redondo High. I firmly intended to approach my idols, Mabel, Barbara, and Rudy, as their equal. After all, I too had once acted in a Hollywood movie. Not by a long shot a star, and I conceded that to Mickey Rooney as he played Puck forever, but a decent little walk-on. I was proud of my Changeling, Prince, and Warner's A Midsummer Night's Dream. When I found Valentino's tomb, it proved a disappointment. It was nothing special. Not at all like the marble wedding cake that Photoplay magazine had announced Paula Negri was going to erect. Just a space on the wall with two dinky flower vases, like those in an old-fashioned limousine, with Rudy's name spelled out in bronze and the long version. Still, I was drawn back again, and again, and again. These visits were charmed. There was never anyone else around. I had Rudy all to myself. I confess, I'm a loner. I think I got to liking solitude in that flatland Hollywood cemetery. It was peaceful, quiet. I liked that. It was so quiet I could hear the mourning doves, their soothing dirges, broken only by an occasional mockingbird. So quiet I could hear a distant lawnmower manned by a Mexican vassal way off amidst the flatlands of tombs. So quiet I was started when a warning recording horn honked out from nearby Paramount. A star was spouting dialogue into a backlot mic. When sound was recorded inside the big blank stages, they just turned on red lights, whorehouse lights I'd heard them called, on the stage doors. They didn't bother to honk. The warning honk from the backlot sound man invariably broke into my Valentinian reveries. My musing abruptly switched to the studio next door, where the Austrian cat trainer von Sternberg was putting Marlene Dietrich through her paces. Dietrich next door. They could have been on take 14 of Caprice Espagnole, the loveliest S&M drama ever turned out in the mills of Tinseltown. Adolf Whispering Jesus Zucker insisted on retitling it The Devil is a Woman. Its distribution was cut short by Zucker, who caved in to Franco, another authoritarian who saw the movie as an insult to Spain's honorable fascist military. Did I ever seriously consider a career in Hollywood? Of course. I could have had my own studio, like Charlie Chaplin. I knew damn well I'd never have one. No illusions on that score. The likes of me and the likes of the front office men, the mayors, the Balabans, the Warners, or the Cones would never have gotten along. When I graduated from Beverly High, instead of knocking on the doors of the employment offices of the industry, that nauseatingly self-important moniker they used in Tinseltown, I stole and sold my family's sterling flatware and solid silver tea service, bought a Greyhound ticket and a ticket on the de Grasse, pride of the fabled French line, and hightailed it to Paris. There I met a dictator, not of front offices or backlots, but of something more fabulous, Henry Langlois, Grand Pasha and Sultan of the Cinémathèque Française. I worked 10 years of the Terrible Turk, for the Terrible Turk, a consensual bondage, since Henry loved movies much, much more than I ever could. Let me make it clear, though, that in any way I do adore the movies, although they disappoint in that they promise immortality, but they don't really deliver. Are you listening, Bernhardt? They get folded, spindled, and mutilated, and grow scratches like wrinkles. Their blooming colors fade as people do, and like lovers and people in general, a lot of them explode in flames and disappear without a trace. What have I to tell that I haven't already told in Holly Baby 1? Some more dish, dirt, or if you will, more maverick movie history. Gents and ladies, let me take you on another walk on the dead side. Call it Hollywood's Walk of Fame, or Walk of Infamy, the expression used by Jane Withers when Hugh Hefner bought his star on the slippery sidewalk. And be sure to take along some black humor batteries. You can, if you will, take the tour with your favorite high. I don't mind. I promise to deliver you back to your hotel at dawn. Kenneth Anger. And that is the end of the first chapter.